I'm Amy Van Keeken from CKUA. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about your new album, Bootcut, which debuted on our CKUA Top 30 chart this week at number 28.
Right.
Now, I know you started a huge tour in support of this album, and it started last night in none other than the Grand Ole Opry, No Big Deal. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? What did it feel like to play at such an amazing place?
Yeah, in my experience, the things like that always just go by so quickly, too quickly. And in many ways, it's very hard to live in the moment, as they say, when you're in a situations like that. But it was a beautiful evening all around, and a lot of other nice musicians were playing, and I got to play with the house band, which was just a thrill as a singer. There's so many of them. Geez, there was probably 15 people on stage, and they really spoiled me rotten. So that was a thrill. Just to share it with some of my friends and crew and people that were there was nice. And afterwards we went out for dinner. I got to eat a pizza. So yeah, it was a nice night all around.
That sounds wonderful. And, you know, your new record does have that lovely Nashville polished sound without sacrificing your realness, your signature voice, your interesting lyrics and sensibility. Speaking of players, how did you pick the players for the record? Because you have some amazing players on it, like Vince Gill on guitar, Sam Bush on mandolin. Can you tell me a little bit about recording with these folks and why you decided to record in Nashville?
I decided to record here because those musicians are here.
Hmm.
That was really the motivation to come down here. I mean, Nashville is Music City. I mean, all the infrastructure for making great recordings is here. The studios are here, the musicians are here, hell, the trucking companies are down here, the bus companies, everything's here. So
Yeah.
it just makes sense from that sort of logistical perspective. But the players that I want to play with really just, are people who are very experienced. They've worked on so many records before mine, and I think it's nice as a singer, as a writer, as a performer to kind of be in a room with people who just have, in many cases, twice the experience or more. A lot of the guys that I recorded with were 20 or 30 years older than I am, and they just sort of have a quiet confidence about what they're doing, and that makes me feel more confident about what I'm doing. And it's kind of like being the weakest player on the team. I always feel if I'm the weakest player on the team, then that usually is a good sign. I'm very flattered that not only did they, say yes and be a part of this recording, but many of them were familiar with my other albums and, were fans and knew the music. And so it means a lot to me when you realize that the music is connecting with other musicians, your peers.
Yeah, totally. It's got a life of its own. On this record, you can really feel that they're not just session players, playing off charts, but they're really supporting your work and really adding to it and honoring the songs. And that's really beautiful. You're doing 32 shows in 29 days, so I won't keep you too long because I know you probably are going to be hitting the road. So you're also doing a family affair matinee performance, or a couple of those in some cities that will be free to kids under 12 and seniors. What a beautiful idea.
Hmm.
And your tour wraps up at Toronto's historic Massey Hall. And I looked at your tour schedule. It's like nonstop. So do you have any like tour rituals that you do to keep you going, or do you just like have a pizza every night and that's kind of like that keeps you going? That would keep me going.
No,
Um
the pizza every night is a dangerous thing. I definitely don't do that. If I'm being honest, I'm pretty selfish on tour. My family life, my domestic life, like most people who have children, it's not about me.
hmm.
When I'm at home, I don't spend a whole lot of time on music or things that, are sort of Afie focused. So when I go on the road, I do the opposite. I don't think I really subscribe to this work-life balance thing, or at least I haven't figured out a way how to do that. When I'm at home, I try to be 100% there. And then when I'm at work, when I'm playing music, I try and just be here and I try and play as much music as I can. I like to hang out with my band and crew. And the world that I live in is pretty small by design. I try not to say yes to too many things that are outside of the music and just make the whole day about the music. As cliche as that sounds, I don't take it for granted. I love playing music, and so we're here for 32 days, as you said. I want to squeeze every last note I can out of it. And yeah, the matinee shows are something that we've done that in different capacities over the years, and I always really enjoyed it. So the challenge was trying to figure out how to incorporate that into a tour and how to do the ticketing and make sure everyone's included. And but yeah, I think selfishly, like that's the show I would go to. I don't usually stay up past 9 o'clock, so I don't go to too many concerts. But if it's at 4 p.m. and there's no opener and you show up at 3:45, you're in your seat at 4, the show's over by 5, you're home for dinner. That sounds pretty attractive to me, and I think there's probably a lot of people that are feel the same way. So it's nice to be able to do that on this tour and just include more people in the music.
Yeah, I love that. You can get home for your pizza by 5:30.
Exactly.
Speaking of your kids, I just wanted to mention, I love the beginning of the record. I love that you start with a little phone recording of you working on a song with your kids bothering you. Dad, dad, dad. It's so charming, and it sets the tone, I think, for the record. And it's just a beautiful way to include them and to include sort of a little glimpse of your process and of your life outside of, as you say, touring. How are you going to keep in touch with them while you're on tour? And are they super proud of you, or are they just like, Dad, we need you to help us with something?
Well, keeping in touch with people in general is a challenge. My kids don't have phones or whatever like that, so it's everything happens through mom's phone.
Mm-hmm.
But we have our routines that mean a lot to us, and I do try and connect with them every day. And but it's a challenge. If I'm being completely honest, it's really hard, and it does take me a lot of time to sort of work my way back in there when I do get home.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's just the challenge for me and my family. I think if you're someone who doesn't go away, I mean, if you work at Royal Bank and you go to work 9 to 5 and you come home for dinner every day, there's just other challenges.
Yeah.
So I guess I just wouldn't know anything different because it's all I've ever done. Yeah, I mean, I think they're starting to become aware of what I do, and in many ways they're indifferent to it just because they're around it all the time. Every once in a while I'll catch them singing one of my songs, sort of under their breath. And they're always the first ones to hear these things. And that's why how they ended up on this recording, because I'm always recording these voice memos so I don't forget my ideas. And they're just all over these things. And yeah, I just thought that was kind of a fun little charming thing. And I always liked on hip hop records how they have these little intros and segues and interludes and sort of insert this dramatic flair into the music. And sometimes it really has a lot to do with the music, and other times it's sort of this in hard sort of juxtaposition against that. So I guess that was a little nod to my love of Nas and Wu-Tang Clan and stuff too.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And I'm going to just have that image of your kids singing your songs in my head. That is probably peak adorableness. You sound like a really super awesome dad, so
Oh, don't believe everything you hear. I fail every day, but thankfully
well, who doesn't?
people love me and they let me fail, and that the
Yeah,
trick is
that's really beautiful.
coming back from it, right?
Well, Afie, it was great to meet you, and thank you so much for taking the time to have a quick chat with us today. Congratulations on the new record. It is so awesome. I love it. I can't stop staring at the cover. It's bringing me back to like junior high in the early 90s with
Yes.
what is it that like Calvin Klein, like perfume
That's
ads?
so funny that you mentioned that, because my friend Heather Goodchild, who does the art for all my records and videos, and I've been working with her for more than a decade, and I told her I wanted the whole campaign to be like a Ralph Lauren ad campaign,
Yes.
and I sent her all these old ads from the 80s and 90s of Ralph Lauren just did such a great job of creating a whole world, and then you'd see these iconic images and you're just like, wow, I want to step into that living room or that, Connecticut farmhouse with the mist is just perfectly laid out on the lawn. And so anyway, it's interesting that you picked up on that.
Well, I'm of the age that in junior high, like we would cut those pictures out and tape them into our locker,
Hmm. Exactly. Marky
So
Mark and the Funky Bunch.
that's just an added bonus. I mean, the music is the thing, but that also I thought was pretty cool, and it meshes so nicely with the tone of the record. And yeah, we're just loving it here at CKUA. So don't be a stranger. We'll be playing this record and sharing it with everyone. And safe travels on the road. Congratulations on your Grand Ole Opry debut. Have a great time touring, and we'll talk again. Thank you, Afie.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Here's just a song from Bahamas' new album, Bootcut, released September 15th. Here on the Rise on CKUA.